And our very first guest, this is quite exciting. He's been suggesting I do one of these for several years now, and here we are, our first guest, the one and only, the legend himself, Tom Panos.
Thank you, Daniel Harris. Thank you for having me. And when I suggested it, I didn't necessarily say I had to be the first one, but it's worked out.
Here you are. You're in Darwin, which is a miracle in itself. I think it's been, what's it been, 6, 7, 8 years since you've been here?
Correct. It's been prior to COVID, so I would say, 2019. I used to regularly come here in my role for the NT News. I was coming here 4 times a year, Dan. Yep. But as you know, since COVID started, and even since then, obviously, print is not as powerful as it was in 2018 and 19, so it's been great. So I've had beautiful weather.
No, different world in many ways. Darwin, Tom, it's a bit of a shift from Sydney. I mean, I know you've just been on the block on the weekend. It's always a hectic schedule you've got, but you've just rolled into Darwin. What are your thoughts on Darwin?
So I was brought up when I was at News Corp looking after the NT News, that Darwin was hard. When they used to send me away to do, real estate training on vendor-paid advertising, because that's what the NT News wanted, when I'd got there, all I would have is the real estate industry saying, but why don't you teach us some dialogue and language to actually help get our vendors to accept the reality of the marketplace? All they concerned about in all the time that I was involved in Darwin, right, and particularly in the period around 2012, 13, 14, 15, it was just hard going. But I've got here 24 hours ago, Dan, man, it's changed. This has done a 180. It's gone from the depths of depression to the heights of exhilaration in this marketplace.
Yeah, it's all happened pretty quickly too. I mean, we sort of noticed it at the coalface about a year ago, waves of investors moving in, but as we sit here speaking now, it's the locals, everyone's on the Darwin train. It's the best market we've seen in well over 10 years.
So even as someone that spends most of their life in Sydney and on that East Coast, Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, I'm having a lot of people asking me what I think of Darwin as an investment, and I can only see that because they're looking at what's happened in the last 12 months. Yeah. And the growth has been incredible. I think the growth here has probably been more in the last year than what it had been in the previous 5-10 years.
Other than that little brief COVID run, yeah, that'd be correct for sure.
Yeah, so it's been fantastic. I love Darwin. In fact, I would say to anyone that's listening to this, next time before you press the Jetstar flight to Bali, come and check Darwin out.
Tropics of Darwin.
It's got everything that you want and more than Bali. Cleaner, better places to eat. The roads are well paved, beautiful places to run. I love this place. In fact, I've actually, speaking to you over dinner last night, thinking about whether the next investment I make, and I haven't made one for some time, is in Darwin.
Oh, we'll see if we can find you another block of units.
Absolutely.
Too good, I'll be buying it, Tom.
Yes, I know that. I know that you're a lover of investing in property as well, and I think you've got to be. I can't get over the fact, Dan, that so many people in real estate that sell real estate don't invest in real estate as much. I always think to myself, man, believe in the product that you're selling, and yeah, I just think there's so much upside here. There's just so many things going for it. And I actually saw the university that has been sort of just completed nearby, and I can tell you that is only going to attract a lot of overseas, particularly Asian students. Tertiary qualifications in Australia highly regarded by the Asians.
Yeah, well, just our proximity to Asia as well. It really should be the hub that launches Australia into Asia, so there's huge potential there.
Yeah, but I've got to tell you, the weather's a lot nicer here than what, as you said, coming back from Melbourne. I was in I just had Dalesford. Yep. Is the place where the block was, and it was freezing. And it's gone, like I've gone from like less than 10 degrees to more than 30 degrees.
This is the hottest time of year too, to be honest.
It is,
so
is
if
it?
you find the weather nice now, I can assure you if you're back here in June, July, August, the dry season, you'll absolutely love it.
Listen, I like it, but you've also got to remember, my genetics are from a place in Greece called Kalamata. I know that in Darwin, most of the Greeks actually originate from a place called Kalimnos, which is known for great sponge farmers or hunters.
The sponge divers, yeah. So we had a good chat about that last night. So they were the best sponge divers in the world. So when it came to the pearls, they were all attracted to Northern Australia to be the best pearl divers, I believe. So
yeah. So I come from a place well, my parents, I was born in Australia, but my parents came from a place called Kalamata. What they're known is for their olives.
Yep. No,
olives,
my son's favourite food, Tom, Kalamata olives. So
wow.
Can eat
Okay.
them, so
they're good for you.
We have to rein him in.
Yeah. And I spent, so as I said to you, like, it's fascinating to see also how there's auctions that are happening in this area. I mean, I came from an auction.
Yep.
I've really enjoyed my time.
Yep. One question I have got for you, so you come straight from the block, that's all in the last sort of 2-3 days. I mean, me as an agent, understanding how auctions work, I can sort of see how it's not really real life. A real life auction compared to what you see on the block? What sort of commentary could you give on that?
Well, number one is real life auctions for me take 10 minutes.
Yep.
On the block, man, it's more like 45. But the irony is you see 1 minute.
Yeah.
So number one is highly edited.
Yep.
And lots of video and stop starting. That doesn't happen in real life. The second thing is when you're auctioning in a normal real estate market and not on a TV show, the buyers are buying real estate.
Yep.
They're buying a house to live in or they're buying an investment. On the block, you've got people like Adrian Portelli, Danny, who bought my property on the block. They're celebrity buyers. So a property might be worth, say, $2 million, but they're prepared to pay more than $2 million because they want the airtime on Channel 9 on a Sunday night and 7:30. They see that as being advertising space.
They're putting the value on that as
Correct.
opposed to the pure property. Yep.
So essentially what you'll do is you'll normally see block properties sell for a higher figure because it's more than the real estate investment, right? And probably the other big thing that is a difference between a real life auction and a block auction is that they're brand new properties and the depreciation reports matter significantly. Example, on the block properties, each property had roughly $6 million worth of depreciation available to it. And that is a significant amount of money. So, if you're a commercial person, and even if you're buying it because you want the kudos of the marketing and the reputation that it's going to give you a primetime TV, you still get some significant tax benefits with that depreciation report. But all I've got to say to you is that the block in many ways was not a success this year because 3 or 2 properties didn't sell, right? And I think that's not a bad thing for Australia because it's not hard, Dan, for your local. You're a real estate guy. You understand.
I've actually said it at auctions here locally. It's not, back in the day it used to be the block, they all just went off, and I'd be actually commenting at one of our local Darwin auctions. It's not all like the block folks, we're just going to pause it briefly and go into some negotiations here with our highest bidder. And I think the perception out there at every auction just goes, flies off the handles with bidders everywhere. So,
it's not like that. Yeah. Like I had to say to someone 3 weeks ago, a vendor, he goes, he said something along the lines, why didn't you bring Adrian Portelli with you? I said, because Adrian Portelli is going to buy a property when there's TV coverage. They're not going to come here to Newtown in Sydney to buy your property. So it is good. It is good in the sense that it helps people understand that it's not always a boom market. Like, to me, there are 3 markets, Dan. There's a buyer's market, there's a seller's market, and there's a balanced market. Right at the moment in Darwin, what do you reckon you've probably got a seller's market?
Well, we've got a seller's market to be fair. There's different sectors within a market though. So the housing market here, from the town right out to the rural area, that's absolutely a seller's market. The unit market's probably more of a balanced market. But the reality is we've probably spent the vast majority of the last decade in a buyer's market to a balanced market. So most of it in a buyer's market. So
yeah. So at any one time, you've either got the wind on your back supporting you, or sometimes you're facing headwinds, and sometimes the market's balanced, which basically means that the absorption rate is pretty good. Every time stock comes up, it gets absorbed at the market. But at the moment, from what I can tell, the absorption rate is super quick. Where, like it sounds like you can list a property, Dan, and that property can be sold within 48 hours.
Oh, 100%. You can sell most of them at the moment. You can sell them with 2 or 3 phone calls, but we still go through the process and get the best result and move on that way. But it certainly hasn't been the case in Darwin for a long time. But yeah, we're currently seeing the best market.
Yeah.
I think it's the best market in the country. So.
Yeah, well, I looked at a data set this morning because I was doing some training and I wanted to have a look at, capital growth. And I'm just gobsmacked, for someone that was involved in having real estate agents in Darwin saying hasn't gone up for a decade.
I tell you to buy a year ago, Tom.
I know.
Still a good point in the cycle, though.
Yeah, like I think to myself, one of the, real big challenges in real estate is to actually have the guts and decision to buy, even if there's a possibility that you think, hey, maybe it's better to buy at a later time. Like, it's really hard to pick the market.
100%. Right? One thing you'll always get here, though, like I know you love blocks of units, you'll always get good cash flow regardless of what's happening with capital values. But I certainly wouldn't say you'll have that consistent capital growth. It's more of a boom-bust cycle, a bit like Western Australia. Most of your investments, chatting last night, I'm sure you don't mind me saying, are in New South Wales, Sydney, so absolute blue chip, but you get that steady growth. So
yeah, so for someone like me and for other people that have invested in one particular state, say New South Wales, it actually becomes attractive to stop buying in New South Wales because of land tax, the way that it works. So when you go into another, land tax is a state tax.
Yeah, we're the only one that doesn't have land tax here.
Is that right?
He has no land tax.
Well, I had zero idea on that.
Jurisdiction, yeah.
Really? No land tax?
Yep.
So you can collect properties and know that land tax...
We can load you up if you want, Tom. So.
Wow, okay. I had no idea. Well, let me tell you, land tax is the single one big expense on a yearly basis that investors, particularly in New South Wales, get frustrated with, and they release assets. They, often me as an auctioneer, I'll rock up to do an auction, I'll meet the owner. The owner will say, here's a reserve, and I'll ask him why they're selling, and they said, we're just releasing the asset. And I'll say, how come? It's not a good investment property? We're just sick and tired of paying land tax.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm from Victoria originally, and I know some people that bought nice holiday homes, and this is a first world problem, down along the coast, but they're not their primary residence, and now the land tax on those homes are so high, and they're meant to be in retirement, they can barely afford to keep them, so they're being sold. So I think that's a bit...
Yeah. So I've got to say, to me, having a look here, when you look at asset classes, commercial, industrial, residential, blocks of units to me sort of sits somewhere in between. Yep. Because if it's a big block of units, and I know that from my own experience with investments I have, if it's more than a block of 4, I normally have a bank that will try and look at it as a commercial asset, right? If it's a block of 4 and under, what they'll do is they'll treat it as residential. So there are some benefits out of a bank treating it as residential. They see it as being a lower risk, probably get a little bit better rate.
Different LVRs, yep.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, but coming back there, they're probably, to me, getting back to that original question, they to me are the biggest, differences that real life auctions and the block auctions have got a different buyer. Yep. And I think one of the reasons why we saw some of those properties not sell, and they're, all over Instagram and TikTok, it's gone viral about, the show. I think the issue is we've got to fundamentally accept the absence of Portelli or other celebrity buyers meant those properties didn't get those high prices, and that's why you've got everyone whinging about the reserves.
Yeah, and you picked a country town too. That's a classic overcapitalisation model, I would have thought too. So I reckon they've got that one wrong. That's my take on that. So.
Yeah, well, they bought the block of land for $9.45 million. And they cut up 6 blocks of land. They ended up building on 5. Out of that 5, each property had a land value per site at $1.5 million. And you're on the back foot from there because from day one, you had already got an investment of 1.5 on a block of land that if you ask the agents there, if they had to sell those blocks as blocks, they're more like half that price.
Yeah, wow. We might move topics a little bit, Tom. So AREC is a conference, the Australian Real Estate Conference I've been going to for many years. It's played a
Yeah,
big
we'll
role in...
probably get you to speak there one day, because I've got to tell you, one of the things that's not featured at AREC enough, and I've been thinking about it, particularly while I've been travelling in Darwin, and I'm going to go to Coffs Harbour tomorrow, and that's regional area in New South Wales, is the fact that regional agents are not well represented at AREC.
Yeah.
Right, you normally end up. It's a big focus on the city agents, and I do think that we've got to put a focus at AREC on regional, because regional has taken off since COVID.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. There's probably isn't a bit of an overrepresentation of those. It's a little bit less relatable for us when I'm sitting there, and I love listening to them. A lot of the guys selling in Vaucluse and that, punching out sales, and their average sale price is 10 mil, whereas here there's only a handful of us that consistently do the $1 million plus sales. That's the high end of our market. That's the reality of Darwin. So
we're really but we're really proud of AREC, because AREC, for your listeners and viewers here, is a training conference of 2 days. We normally get somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 people there. For the record, it is the biggest business conference in Australasia. There is no other bigger conference. Like, you don't get 4,000 or 5,000 people. And the reason is, apart from getting, someone like you to speak, so we always get, 10 or so local real estate agents in Australia / New Zealand, but we do get some high profile people, right? Like this year we had Kamala Harris. A lot of people wouldn't consider her high profile, we had her.
Yep.
It's interesting. A lot of real estate people don't like Kamala. I think that they're more aligned. They're more aligned to Trump. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's the nature of a real estate person. Yeah. They're more in right. But we felt that. We had to actually, we're doing our best to actually soften the image of real estate. It's very much about gung-ho, make money, smash them, beat them, the person with the most toys wins. We understand that females are involved in the decision-making process in both buying and selling. We also, apart from Kamala Harris, we've had Matthew McConaughey. I think you were there when he spoke.
I think I've been to 15 or 16 in a row. So.
Oh wow! So I don't know if you remember, we did have Donald Trump on live stream many years ago when he had a show called The Apprentice. Yep. So we have had him, Reese Witherspoon, but it's a great conference, and I've got to tell you, the real estate agents of Australia and New Zealand love going to the Gold Coast. They don't want us. It's been held there year after year after year. They like going to the Gold Coast, and I've got to tell you, the Gold Coast people like it as well. The cabbies love it. The restaurants love it. It's like 2 days. It basically becomes like the Royal Easter Show, right? But it's all real estate agents.
The number it pumps into the Gold Coast economy to be up there, wouldn't it?
Look, it would be up there, but I've got to say that I go to the Gold Coast regularly for work, and I remember sitting in a Uber once, and a guy goes, "Oh, we have this conference that comes here May every year," and he had no idea who I was or what involvement I had with the conference. And I go, "Oh, what is it?" He goes, "Oh, I think it's real estate." He goes, "It's the best thing out." He goes, "Man," he goes, "that weekend, the amount of money I make," right? So I think what actually happens is agents just go crazy, because you've got to remember, agents don't get away, Dan. Like,
some of them we try and don't let the hair down too much, but some of the agents have been known to go a bit AWOL.
You normally come along. You normally drag a couple of other colleagues with you.
Yeah, we've always had a bit of a crowd there. Some years we have like 20 plus. There's some of those years around COVID and that there's a few less, but no, we've always got at least half a dozen there. Our sales team.
We think it's important, Dan, because real estate is changing all the time. We've got AI, digital, social, and what we've learnt is that you can't just go to real estate school, get your ticket, and keep going. I've got to tell you, your license will make you a living. Your education post your license will make you a fortune. So we are obsessed with educating people. We're obsessed with educating people to also do the right thing, because there's a cohort of agents, Dan,
100%,
that don't do the right thing.
Give us all a bad name, 100%, all around the country. So.
Yeah, and they're all over the place. I'm sure they're in Darwin as well. They do certain things. They'll overprice things. And we have a saying, the biggest liar gets the job. It's a dreadful saying, Real estate people are known to have high levels of commission breath, right? And we try and use AREC as an event to help real estate agents remind themselves we're not curing cancer. All we're doing is matching buyers with sellers. There's an ethical way to do it. You do represent the vendor. You've got to do the right thing by the vendor, but that does not mean you screw the buyer, right? And
play the long game's always been my view.
Yeah, well,
do the right thing, play the long game, and you'll have a successful career.
Well,
so
I think
many people get in there, do a deal, and they do the wrong thing, and it's not you're not going to get constant referrals. It's burn out quickly. It's crazy. So.
Well, Dan, I'd be surprised that in Darwin, if bad news wouldn't spread at electrifying speed.
It's a small town, 100%. So it compounds. You do good things. Next thing you know, your phone's ringing. Can you help my friends? Can you sell this one? Can you sell this one? I'm sure if you do bad things, the opposite applies.
Yeah, look. So being a bad, unethical agent might get you an extra year in Sydney and Melbourne because there's lots of people.
City, yeah.
In Darwin,
just a big country town.
I went for a run this morning, and I don't live here, and I saw people that were familiar faces that would stop and talk, including people from your office that we were there yesterday. And I just thought to myself, like, you don't want to do the wrong thing here, right? It will get out, right? But that's good because it basically means that you should have an industry in Darwin that doesn't have a lot of cowboys because they would get found out quickly and they would get squashed quickly. But there's always the next cowboy to come in real estate.
There always is. But as things evolve over time and, it's all about digital media these days and people can research and that sort of thing. I think that sort of sorts out the wheat from the chaff a little bit.
Correct.
So coming back to AREC, one thing I've always admired about you, Tom, you're a very good presenter. You've got great energy. Like I said, the office was absolutely buzzing when you left yesterday. But you've had periods in your life, like we'll all have things go on in our life, but you've had some serious challenges. And your ability to sort of compartmentalise them and be professional and get your head in the game and carry on, still blows my mind the year at AREC where I think I've been to it.
2016 it would have been. So AREC is Sunday, Monday.
Yep.
On Friday night, I was told, you've got cancer. And I remember at the time thinking to myself, I can't do this. 4,000 or 5,000 people. And in fact, I was locked in for treatment the Tuesday after AREC. And to the point, I still remember it to this day, I was rung by a guy called Jeff Lucas that used to work at McGrath's at the time. He's no longer there. At the agency. And he said, mate, come up and get some cocktails. This is after AREC. I said, mate, I'm not on the Gold Coast. I've gone. And he goes, FaceTime me. And I FaceTime, and he sees me in a white gown in a hospital. And I said, mate, I'm at RPA in Sydney. He goes, so you've left the Gold Coast. Is something happened? I said, listen, I've got cancer. I've got to start treatment. And he goes, but you've been on the stage for 2 days in that
amazing energy. That's what just completely blew my mind. The fact you could compose yourself.
So Dan, I'll explain. Cancer, and I've had it 4 times, and I've lost my brother, who was my best mate, on cancer, and I've lost a lot of mates who became friends I met through cancer. Cancer has taught me to be really good to package things into time intervals, to compartmentalise, to focus on the present. And the reason why is that if you've been diagnosed with a terminal illness, and mine was terminal, it's no longer terminal, thank God, they found a cure, which is a miracle in itself. But I've spent 20 years to train my brain not to worry too much more than the now. And the reason why is if I concentrated on the future, it was sad.
Yep.
I got kids. I had young kids when I first got sick. I got a family. I got parents. I got parents that have already buried one son. It's not a really good thing to think about what the future would look like when you've been given a prognosis like I have. So my coping strategy was just try and get really good at becoming present focused, so you don't let your mind go too far forward. So that was what helped me at ARIC, that I've had a lot of practice to actually say, I've got to have a good day today. And sometimes it's got to be, Tom, I can't even get through this day. I've got to have a good morning. I've got to get and have a good morning. So in some regards, Dan, they say some of the best gifts in life come badly wrapped.
Yep.
What's the gift that's come out of the illness is the ability for me to slowly learn how to control my mind.
Yep.
Right? To be able to be on this podcast here right now and to be present focused. To be able to be at the stage at ARIC on the Monday, knowing on Tuesday at 11 o'clock I was probably going to be having chemo, but on that Monday to be sitting there and to be immersed in what I'm doing, I'll tell you what helps a lot. When you love what you do, you get immersed in it. And psychologists call it a state of flow.
Yep.
You get immersed in it, and because you're enjoying it, you actually, just for that short period of time, your brain is not thinking about anything else.
You're in that state of flow. Yep.
You know the feeling. Like, you love fishing, I think, or you like doing certain things. What's your favourite things you do?
Oh, one of the reasons I moved up here, I do love the outdoors and getting out fishing. That's a bit of our culture at the office when I'm not working. Yeah.
So if you, whenever someone's focused on something that they like doing,
Yep.
you normally find that they can't think of another thing at the same time,
Yep.
right? So that has been the gift that I've got out of the illness. And the good news is I now get to live the next 20, 30 years now that there's, a treatment.
Yep.
I get the next 20, 30 years that I can, live that life. And I'm curious on whether I'm going to lose that skill.
Yep.
I'm curious because I now am like all other people in the world that don't have a terminal illness.
Yep.
And that is, you need to think about the future. Does it mean that I'm going to move back to what I was like 20 years ago, where I'm constantly thinking, what next, what next, what next? Or am I able to actually just keep this habit and ritual that I have? So far it's been like 3 months ago I was told about the good news about CAR T-cell therapy, which is the treatment.
So you know that if you relapse again, there's now actually a cure for that.
100%. It's called CAR T-cell therapy, and it's quite an extraordinary treatment. And even though this is not a cancer podcast, I know that a lot of people that are listening to this or watching this have probably got friends or family that are going through cancer. CAR T-cell therapy is a treatment where they take your blood out, they pull out your T-cells, they re-engineer them, they then infuse them back into your body, and they become like munchers for the rest of your life. Remember the game Pac-Man, right? They become like soldiers. But what's remarkable about this treatment is that they don't die. The research out there shows that even if a cancer cell emerges a decade later, these soldiers are on standby, and they're sitting there and they swallow it. So the good news is that I've got something that I know I can fall to if I relapse, which is a strong possibility because it's done 4 times and it's in my lymphatic system. But I did get tested about 3 weeks ago, and I'm NED, which is no evidence of disease. And so it's happy days.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Tom, so you're doing about 1,000 auctions a year. I know you've got the gym membership. You'd be the biggest real estate trainer in the country. But doing those 1,000 auctions a year, you're pretty qualified to comment. What are the biggest mistakes you see out there in property?
So let's focus the conversation on buyers and sellers and not agents, and what the mistakes I see with them, right? The first thing I see with buyers, biggest mistake, is often they'll go off and buy a property in an area that they don't know much about and pay overs because they compare it to another suburb that they've been looking at, which was a better suburb, and then they see this property and they think, geez, that's good value, and then post-auction, 1 week later, they have a look and they realise, oh, wow, I think we've actually overpaid for this in this marketplace. Like, in that marketplace, it's overpaid compared to the other one that they were looking at.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, so you've seen that.
I've seen that. COVID was a great example. I feel sorry. I'm a Victorian, so originally I'm a Territorian now, but I could probably say we had a lot of Melburnians buying in the Darwin market, and a couple had missed out on auctions in Nightcliff, and then they rolled straight into auctions in a suburb like Allawah and Moyle, which locally aren't held in the same sort of, nothing wrong with those suburbs, but they're not at Nightcliff's level, and they were bidding on those suburbs, treating the values like it was Nightcliff, and that's one perfect example.
So the other thing is, I think a lot of people, they make decisions on temporary things. Like example, like I had, like even at the block, I actually had a buyer that said to me, look, interest rates, like when there's no guarantee they're going to keep coming down, and he turned around and he goes, and, they've come down a bit, I just don't think I'm going to. I said, listen, do you like the house? Yep. He goes to me, I do. I said, you're marrying the house. You date interest rates. So I think one of the other mistakes I see people is they're making a decision on a house, but sometimes they look at the temporary things there, like it's the house you're marrying. Rates go up, rates go down, right? It's a flirting relationship over 20, 30 years. I see that as being a mistake. I see sellers make a mistake, and it's a bad mistake, where they list their property to the real estate agent that gives them the highest price and the lowest commission. Yeah. I mean, the irony of it all is normally a person that does that, which I call Larry the Liar, that agent is probably the least competent 100%. To get you the price.
I say that all the time, naturally, but we know that. But the average person, what do they sell on average? A home twice in their lifetime or something like that?
Correct.
2 point something, so, yeah.
Correct. So they're two big errors I see. And probably the third error is landlords that are obsessed at what the value of their property is doing on a frequent basis. Like the best investors I've seen look, in Sydney, a lot of the people that have got backgrounds, Jewish people, Greek people, they buy real estate, they get the contract, and they hold it, and they put it in a cupboard, and they never look at it. They're not like, they're not like the person looking at their mobile phone. What's it worth today? They're not like a share trader. What's the value today? They play the long game, and they don't keep score each day. I think the best investors, what they do is they're understanding, they're playing the long game, they're making money while they sleep, and they let go of the need and necessity to know on a daily basis, what's this thing worth, right? I just think to myself, you're pretty safe in real estate, no matter what market that you're in. If in your head you're saying, I'm buying this, I'm keeping it for a decade as a minimum, you're set. You'll be making money while you sleep. And I have to say to you, to this day, and I know you're the same, you've got a passion for property because you know that property actually gives you a lifestyle, gives you family security, and to be quite frank, I just wish it was possible in Australia that more people could actually buy real estate.
I agree with that. Yeah. There's definitely a gap being created. So.
And I'm worried that we're going to look back in 2025, 26 might have been a defining period where you had a group of people. Like I think at the moment, you know what it's like? It's like there's been a buyer sitting on a life raft. Yep. They're stuck in the ocean and they're thinking to themselves, here's my chance. I can just, get onto something, and they're getting really close. Yep. And someone's come to save them. And it's been taken away because this government scheme of 5% guaranteed is bringing in a lot of buyers into the market. Yep. It's moving the gap of the lower properties higher. It means the non-owners are going to get harder to buy real estate. And unfortunately, and this is not me making a political comment, but I am concerned that this scheme in place, which is there to put water to stop this crisis in housing, is actually not water. I think it's fuel that's fueling the fire. I think it might be work at being counterproductive for the housing problem that we've got in this country.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'll get a little bit political with you here. You might not know this, but they changed the caps on every capital city in Australia based on the shifts in prices recently. However, Darwin's cap remained the same at 600,000, which it actually makes no sense for those 5% buyers buying
Look,
at the moment.
you did tell me last night over dinner, and you did tell me, which I'm really happy and pleased that you're trying to do your bit at your end to try and influence and try and get that.
Just an example of a federal government not understanding what's going on here at the NT, and it's not fair. I'm not suggesting for a second. I don't think it's right that people go out and hock themselves to the eyeballs just to get into the property market. But there are people I know that have really good, high-paying jobs. They want to have a nice house, and they have the capacity to do it, but actually can't now because they're capped at the 600 here in NT. So I think common sense will prevail soon, and they'll change it. But every other state had an adjustment. I think yours is like 1.3 million in Sydney.
No, it's 1.5.
1.5.
It's 1.5.
Yeah.
It's
so we're capped at 600 here. Now, if you get on realestate.com and try and find a house in Darwin right now under 600, it's extremely hard. Like Maldon, our cheapest suburb in Darwin here, it's actually tricky to buy a house there under 600 now unless it needs work.
So Dan, that's an issue because when I go around the country and I look at those thresholds, like Melbourne is a really challenging market, right? And you can buy now property easily there at under $1 million, and their threshold is 950. I mean, people need to know that Darwin is not down the bottom of the AFL ladder anymore, right? Darwin has...
It's been down for a while, but it takes a while to get out.
Like if you go off and look at cities, right, it's no longer Sydney and Melbourne leading the way. The things have narrowed up. Like right now, all the action's about Darwin and Perth. We've got to be really, really clear.
We're the mini Perth, so I've often said to people we typically follow a similar cycle to Perth, like a little brother sort of relationship. So some of that's resource related, but that if you go back historically and look at our cycles, Perth and Darwin have always had a similar sort of worm going on there, so often counter-cyclical to what used to happen in Sydney, Melbourne. But now we're seeing different states at different points. Melbourne's going through its own dramas. You got southeast Queensland Olympics coming up. There's just so much money going there, so it's fascinating.
So one thing is for sure, 40, 50 years ago, people would say, how's the market? And the market was the same pretty much all over the place. In 2025, and it happened before then, there are micro markets. No markets behave the same way, right? And you could easily turn around and say this market's doing good, this market there. But from what I hear from you is that the Perth and the Darwin market are aligned. Like if one, is that right?
We tend to follow whatever happens in Perth. About 18 months later, that's us. So
look, all I can say to you is that what are the greatest signs of the property investors and people that buy in property that I know? Well, no excuses now. There's a thing called ChatGPT, AI, and you can source information. But I also think that every person should have a real estate agent, like before they need them, right? You got a dentist, you got a plumber, right?
Mechanic,
I reckon you need to have your agent. You need to be able to have that one person that you trust and say, hey, what do you think of this? When do you think I should put it on, right? And even as we're recording this podcast, look, I would say to anyone that's listening to this, here's an interesting stat. I mean, I'm aligned with News Corp, which owns realestate.com. The data on realestate.com tells us the highest day of eyeballs is Boxing Day.
Yep.
So I'm urging anyone that's about to come onto the market in 2026, be smart. Come back when the buyers come back. That's Boxing Day, right? They're sitting at home watching the first day of the Boxing Day test. They're sitting at home processing the turkey from the day before, and they're on realestate.com. So if you're a seller in the Darwin marketplace, a smart thing is to speak to your real estate agent and say, how do we get the eyeballs on the 26th?
We rack up some coming soons is what we do, Tom, but yeah. Got to be a little bit careful here because a lot of people actually migrate out of the territory over that Christmas period. So I have a saying, you want to go fishing when the fish are in the water, but what we'll often do is put out our coming soons for the new year on Boxing Day because we know that start.
Whet their appetite.
Whet their appetite and then get stuck into it in January when everyone's back on deck. So, well, thanks, Tom. You've been the first guest here on my new podcast, and can't thank you enough for everything you've done for me over the years and for being my guest here today. Thank you.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure, and I can tell you one of the reasons why you're a winner, and the data shows it, arguably the best real estate agent in the marketplace here in Darwin, is your ability to go off and execute. We spoke about a podcast, and it took longer, but you've done it.
3 years later.
But you've done it, and I'm your first host, so watch out, Joe Rogan.